Welcome to a journey back in time to 79 AD Pompeii, one of the most prosperous, vibrant, and doomed cities in the Roman Empire. Before the mountain destroyed it, Pompeii was a paradise. It was a city where Roman aristocrats built vacation villas, where wine flowed from the volcanic soil, and where the Forum buzzed with the commerce of an empire at its height. But beneath the beauty, Mount Vesuvius was preparing to unleash one of history's most catastrophic eruptions. Using advanced AI technology, we have transformed ancient frescoes, archaeological evidence, and Roman writings into photorealistic scenes. Today, you won't just hear about history, you will see it. You will walk the stone streets of Pompeii, stand in the shadow of Vesuvius, and witness the 18 hours that buried an entire civilization under 60 feet of ash and pumice. In 79 AD, Pompeii was home to approximately 15,000 people. It was a prosperous port city on the Bay of Naples, blessed with fertile volcanic soil that produced the finest wine in Italy. It was a city of extreme contrasts. Grand villas with stunning frescoes stood blocks away from brothels and taverns. Temples to Roman gods overlooked a gladiatorial arena where men fought to the death for entertainment. But this golden age was about to end in the most violent way imaginable. We will see how a city was erased in less than a day, how its people died, and how their final moments were preserved in volcanic ash for nearly 2,000 years, creating the most complete snapshot of Roman life ever discovered. The jewel of Campania. To understand why Pompeii's destruction shocked the Roman world, you must understand what made this city so special. This is the Forum of Pompeii, the beating heart of civic life. This wasn't just a marketplace, it was the center of politics, religion, and commerce. Looking at the reconstructed scene, we see marble columns rising toward the sky, painted in vibrant reds and yellows. The Romans didn't build in plain white stone. They loved color. Around the Forum stood the most important buildings in the city: the Temple of Jupiter, the Basilica where legal cases were heard, the covered meat and fish market. On any given day, you would see toga-clad magistrates debating policy, merchants haggling over the price of garum, the fermented fish sauce Romans obsessed over, and slaves carrying goods on their shoulders. But what made Pompeii truly wealthy was its location. The city sat at the intersection of several major trade routes. Ships from across the Mediterranean docked at its port. The volcanic soil of Mount Vesuvius produced wine so famous it was exported to Rome itself. Local industries thrived. Pompeii was known for its garum production and its textile workshops, where wool was cleaned, dyed, and turned into garments for the empire. The city's prosperity is visible in its homes. This is the House of the Faun, one of the largest private residences in Pompeii, covering an entire city block. The wealthy owner decorated his home with the famous Alexander mosaic, depicting Alexander the Great's victory over the Persian king Darius. The house had 2 atriums, 2 peristyle gardens, and enough rooms to house dozens of slaves. But Pompeii wasn't just for the rich. The city had a thriving middle class of merchants and craftsmen who lived in smaller, but still comfortable homes. And even the poor had access to one of Rome's greatest gifts: public baths. The Stabian Baths were the social center of Pompeii. Romans didn't just bathe here. They exercised, socialized, and conducted business. The baths had separate sections for men and women: hot rooms, caldarium; warm rooms, tepidarium; and cold plunge pools, frigidarium. The walls were decorated with frescoes, and the floors were heated by an ingenious underfloor system called a hypocaust. Water was so central to Roman life that Pompeii had an advanced aqueduct system. The Aqua Augusta brought fresh water from mountain springs 42 miles away. Public fountains were placed at nearly every street corner, and wealthy homes had running water piped directly into their private basins. Walking through Pompeii, you would be struck by how alive everything was. The streets were narrow and crowded. Shop fronts opened directly onto the sidewalks. Taverns called Thermopolia served hot food and wine from large ceramic jars, set into marble counters. Street vendors shouted their prices. Children played dice games. Graffiti covered the walls. Yes, The Romans loved graffiti. They wrote political slogans, declarations of love, insults, and even advertisements for gladiatorial games. One famous piece of graffiti reads, "Successus the weaver loves Iris, the innkeeper's slave girl, but she doesn't care for him. Still, he begs her to take pity on him." 2,000 years later, we can still read the heartbreak of a Pompeian textile worker. The shadow of the mountain now. Let's talk about the mountain. This is Mount Vesuvius as it appeared in 79 AD, a single, massive peak covered in forests and vineyards. The Romans had no word for volcano. They didn't understand what Vesuvius truly was. To them, it was just an unusually tall mountain that happened to have incredibly fertile soil. But Vesuvius was a ticking time bomb. The last major eruption had occurred in 1800 BC, so long ago that all memory of it had faded. A few educated Romans knew that the region was prone to earthquakes. In fact, a massive earthquake in 62 AD had damaged much of Pompeii. 17 years later, the city was still being rebuilt, but the people of Pompeii didn't connect the earthquakes to the mountain. They didn't realize they were living on top of a volcanic powder keg that was about to explode with the force of several nuclear bombs. In the days before the eruption, there were warning signs. If anyone had known how to read them, small earthquakes became more frequent. Wells and springs began to dry up as underground magma heated the water table. Animals behaved strangely, but life continued normally. The morning of the 24th of August, 79 AD began like any other summer day. The 24th of August, 79 AD, the day the world ended. It was around 1 p.m. when Vesuvius exploded. The mountain didn't just erupt, it detonated. A massive explosion blew off the entire top of the volcano, sending a column of superheated gas, ash, and pulverized rock 20 miles into the sky. The column was so tall it could be seen from Rome, over 150 miles away. We know the exact details of what happened because of one man, Pliny the Younger. He was 17 years old, staying with his uncle across the bay in Misenum. His uncle, Pliny the Elder, was the commander of the Roman fleet and a famous natural philosopher. In letters written years later, Pliny the Younger described everything he witnessed. He wrote, "A cloud was ascending, the appearance of which I cannot give you a more exact description of than by likening it to that of a pine tree, for it shot up to a great height in the form of a very tall trunk, which spread itself out at the top into a sort of branches. This pine tree cloud, what we now call a Plinian eruption column, towered over the bay. It began to collapse under its own weight, raining down pumice stones and ash. Inside Pompeii, panic erupted immediately. The first phase of the eruption dropped white pumice stones, light, porous volcanic rock, on the city. They fell like deadly hail, thousands of them, ranging from pebble size to as large as a fist. Within an hour, the streets were covered. Within 3 hours, the pumice was waist-deep. Roofs began to collapse under the weight. People had to make an impossible choice: stay inside and risk being crushed when the roof caved in, or venture out into the rain of volcanic debris. Many tried to flee. We can track their desperation in the archaeological record. Families grabbed their most precious possessions, jewelry, coins, even house keys, as if they thought they might return. They wrapped cloth around their heads for protection and pushed toward the city gates. But the pumice kept falling. 6 hours, 10 hours. By nightfall, Pompeii was buried under 12 feet of pumice, and still it kept coming. The air was thick with volcanic ash, making it almost impossible to breathe. The weight of the pumice made it nearly impossible to move. Pliny the Elder, the famous admiral and naturalist, decided to investigate. He ordered his ships to cross the bay to rescue friends trapped in the towns near Vesuvius. It would be his last voyage. When his ship landed at Stabian, just south of Pompeii, he was overcome by toxic fumes and collapsed on the beach. The admiral, who had commanded fleets, died, choking on volcanic gas. The pyroclastic surges, the final horror. The pumice phase was terrifying, but it wasn't the main killer. Most of those who died in the initial hours were trapped under collapsed buildings. The real horror came the next morning, around 6:30 a.m. on the 25th of August. The eruption column collapsed completely. When it hit the ground, it created something far more deadly than falling rocks: pyroclastic surges, superheated avalanches of gas, ash, and rock that raced down the mountain at over 100 miles. The temperature of these surges reached 570 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to instantly vaporize flesh, boil brains inside skulls, and turn blood to steam. But here is the truly horrifying part. It was over in seconds. The first surge hit Herculaneum, a smaller town closer to Vesuvius. Hundreds of people had taken shelter in boathouses along the beach, hoping to escape by sea. The surge caught them there, killing everyone instantly. When archaeologists excavated these boathouses in the 1980s, they found the skeletons still huddled together, families holding each other in their final moments. The fourth and sixth surges reached Pompeii. By this point, most of those who had survived the night had either fled or were sheltering inside buildings, exhausted and suffocating from the ash-filled air. When the surge hit, death was instantaneous. Bodies were flash-heated, their muscles contracting violently. People died mid-stride, reaching for doorways, clutching loved ones. Then the surge buried them under 6 feet of hot ash that hardened like concrete. This is how they remained for 1,700 years, frozen in time. The bodies of Pompeii. When Pompeii was rediscovered in 1748, archaeologists found something unprecedented: cavities in the ash where bodies had once been. The volcanic material had hardened around the victims like a mold. Over centuries, the bodies decomposed, leaving perfect hollow spaces in the exact shapes of the people at the moment of death. In 1863, archaeologist Giuseppe Fiorelli had a brilliant idea. Why not fill these cavities with plaster? When the plaster hardened, they could chip away the ash to reveal perfect casts of the victims. The results are haunting beyond words. We see a man crouched with his hands over his face, trying to protect himself from the heat. We see a dog, still chained to a post, writhing in its final agony. We see a pregnant woman who died clutching her belly. We see 2 children holding each other. The most famous is the Garden of the Fugitives, 13 people, probably from the same family, who tried to escape together. They made it to the edge of the city before the surge overtook them. You can see the exact moment death arrived. Some are curled in fetal positions. Others sprawled flat, one person on their knees with arms raised as if trying to push away the unbearable heat. These aren't just archaeological artifacts. These are real people. They had names we'll never know. They had dreams, fears, loves. In an instant, they became immortal, preserved in their most vulnerable moment forever. Aftermath and rediscovery. After the eruption ceased, Pompeii was buried under 60 feet of volcanic material. The Roman Empire was shocked. Historians recorded the disaster. The Emperor Titus sent aid to survivors. But Pompeii itself was unreachable, buried too deeply to excavate with ancient technology. Within a generation, people forgot exactly where it had been. The city became a legend, a cautionary tale about the anger of the gods. For 1,700 years, Pompeii slept. Then, in 1748, engineers digging a canal stumbled upon ancient walls. They had rediscovered Pompeii by accident. Over the next 275 years, archaeologists carefully excavated about 2/3 of the city, and what they found was extraordinary. The volcanic ash had created a perfect time capsule. Wooden furniture was carbonized but preserved in perfect detail. Frescoes retained their colors. Bread was still sitting in ovens. Wine remained in amphorae. Even graffiti on the walls was perfectly readable. Pompeii gives us something no other archaeological site can: a complete snapshot of daily Roman life. Not the life of emperors and generals, but the life of ordinary people. We can see what they ate, how they decorated their homes, what jokes they told, and what worried them. Today, Pompeii is one of the most visited archaeological sites in the world. More than 2.5 million people walk its ancient streets each year. You can stand in the forum where Romans debated politics 2,000 years ago. You can sit in the amphitheater where 20,000 spectators watched gladiators fight. You can walk into shops and homes and see frescoes that were painted when Jesus was alive. And always, in the background, looms Vesuvius, still active, still dangerous, now overlooking the modern city of Naples and its 3 million residents. The meaning of Pompeii reminds us of the terrifying power of nature and the fragility of human civilization. In just 18 hours, one of the Roman Empire's most beautiful cities was erased as if it had never existed. But the tragedy also gave us a gift. By freezing Pompeii in time, Vesuvius preserved the most complete record of ancient Roman life we will ever have. Every excavation reveals new details. Just in 2023, archaeologists discovered a dining room with incredibly detailed frescoes depicting scenes from the Trojan War. The plaster casts remind us that history isn't just dates and emperors, it is people. Real people who laughed and cried and loved and died, just like us. When you look at the cast of a Pompeian family holding each other in their final moment, you are not looking at ancient history. You are looking at a universal human truth, that in our darkest moments, we reach for the people we love. Pompeii is a warning and a testament. A warning that nature is more powerful than any human achievement. A testament that even in death, even after 2,000 years, humanity endures in the stories we leave behind. If you enjoyed this journey to the last day of Pompeii, let us know in the comments. Which city's secrets should we uncover next using our AI lens? Should we explore the glory of ancient Athens, or perhaps witness the fall of Tenochtitlan? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next era.